Where in the world are we? Well, if you're in the nave and you look up on the right-hand side at the third row from the top of the plaques, I'm right behind them right now. We're actually inside the organ. This is just a wonderful machine, one of the most complex machines ever devised by mankind before the modern age. It has so many different parts. It took so many different skills to build and to maintain. We have a treasure here at St. Mark's. Let's find out something about it. This particular part of the organ is played by the main manual. And each different size and type of pipe makes a different sound, a different kind of sound. You see, some pipes are made of metal, and there are others around here that are made of wood. There are some pipes that are open at the top. There's other pipes that are closed at the top. There are some pipes that actually have a little brass reed inside of them that vibrates. Others operate like a flute, where there's a small opening and you make that column of air vibrate inside the pipe. So they work all different ways. Oh, it's wonderfully complicated physics and mathematics in the working out of all of this. But when it's all together, what a wonderful thing it is. I'm kneeling here just in one small division of the organ. But there are several more, one directly below me, and then two more on the other side of the chancel, and one in between. It is just stacked in here and crammed in here. If there were not any cloth on the front of it, you would be amazed, and you could see all the different components from the nave. The cloth that we have on the chancel wall is supposed to be kind of like grill cloth on a speaker, so that the sound is not impeded. It's just visually you can't see all these things, but still, in here, the sound can get out very easily. Each pipe makes one particular sound. So in order to have one sound for each note on the keyboard, you have to have a different pipe for each key. And so each one is made just a little bit larger. The larger the pipe, the lower the sound. The rank that's closest to me is one of the stopped ranks. That is, you see there's a little cap on the top of it here. In effect, what that means is the pipe is half as long as it would be if it were an open pipe like that. Yeah, it's that physics stuff again, you know. Right over here, you can see one strange-looking little thing. We added this about, I guess it was 7 or 8 years ago. It's called a Zimbelstern. Bell star would be a translation from the German. Actually, it's little, tiny lengths of pipe that are hung. So Dick will sometimes use that, especially at Christmas time or other very festive occasions, just to add sparkle to the top of the sound. It's not run by air as all the pipes are. This is something that's extra, that's added. Sometimes on an organ that you will see a star on the front of the case. And if you do, you can probably be sure that there's a Zimbelstern there, literally right behind that star. And whenever the star turns, this Zimbelstern is working. Ours, however, is just here inside the case, and that's all there is to it. But you may look for that in some other places. We've already talked about the open flue ranks. Now here is a reed rank. One of several that we have in the organ. This one is called a vox humana. Actually, inside of this very heavy lead boot, there is a brass shallot, and a small reed is literally lying on that, and it vibrates kind of like a clarinet reed would do, but it's very permanent, unlike the clarinet reeds that wear out so quickly. And when that sound, that vibration then is amplified by the resonator here on the top of the reed pipe. It is controlled by tuning by this little wire that sticks out of the side, up or down, that changes the length of the reed. Just as in the flute pipe, the length of the pipe determines the sound. Here, it's the length of the reed that determines the sound. Now underneath here we can see one of the wonderful inventions that they came up with. When the air is moving through the system, whenever you play a note, it's going to use some air that actually goes through the pipe. We have to keep the air pressure even. And so there's this box with gussets and leather, and of course it's sealed very tightly. There's springs on here and lead weights sitting on top of it, so that the springs are pulling down, the air is pushing up, and whenever air is used, the springs will take over just a little bit and push down a little bit, so that the pressure of the air that goes to the pipes remains constant. Wonderful invention. Then right here is one of those things that is very necessary for the organ. That is the wind supply. Right here are some very large reed pipes. Look at the size of that boot and the resonator that goes on with a big twist and then up to about, well, I don't know, about 12, 14 feet. Incredible! But for those very lowest, very reedy sounds, that's the kind of resonator that we need. So from very small ones, now you've seen some very large ones. Now, you need to know, why in the world is this pipe bent up like this? Remember the story about our organ, how it got started. It was built in 1939 for the previous church building. And in 1959, when this building was being constructed, they literally took that organ out of the previous church building, took it back to the factory, reworked certain sections, added some more to it, and then reinstalled it here. That would have been fantastic to see, because they would have had to have pulleys and lifts and all sorts of scaffolding and so on to get all of this instrument up in here before the facade was put on the chancel wall. It had to be installed first, because there's literally no way to get up here except one small trap door. Everything else had to have come through the front before the wall was put in. But you see, when these pipes were in the previous church building, the chamber for the organ was much smaller than this particular chamber. And so how are we going to fit this in here? Well, the organ builders knew that they could literally bend the pipe in a complete circle here, and still it would maintain the same sound. The column of air is the same length, it's just that it had to be bent in order to fit in. They wouldn't have to be here. We have enough height in this room for them to be straight up and down. As you continue to look over there, you'll see some wood pipes that, then you'll see that they are bent over also, up high there. They can do that with wood pipes as well as metal pipes. And so that's what they chose to do. And they did not rebuild them. It takes a tremendous amount of skill to make all of these pipes, because everything has to be exactly right. The ratio of the width to the length is different. That determines the quality of the sound. The pitch of the sound is the length of the pipe. The quality is that ratio. And of course, people have, for the last 500 years, have been experimenting with all of these different ratios and determining what sounds best, what works best, what goes together best. If you're wondering about the string on that those set of resonators there, it's a very practical thing. It's holding them in place. After all, this is a relatively soft metal. And over a number of years, it can gradually start to sag. And so, literally, they are tied in place to keep them exactly where the builder wants them to be, so that that doesn't happen. Very practical. There are certain synthetics and so on that have found a place in organ building, but they've discovered that some of the techniques and materials that have been in use for the better part of 500 years still work the best. That's one of the wonderful things about the organ, is that everything here can be worked on. Nothing here ever goes really out of date completely. Everything is repairable. Now you're looking at the wall, and we're down several rows, and we're over on the choir side now. And right in front of you there are, well, it kind of looks like Venetian blinds turned sideways. When Dick presses one of the pedals on the organ console, it literally shuts those blinds. It's just a mechanical control, and actually we renewed it so that it functions better. There is the control box for the swell shades, we call them, or you might call them Venetian blinds. Not every part of the organ has those, just two divisions do. It's very crowded up here with all of these different components. And this is a place where no one else really is permitted or has opportunity to come. It's just too easy to bump into something and damage something. So that makes it a very special place for us to come today in order to get this video made for you to know. This is one of the treasures of St. Mark's. If we had to replace this, the cost would be something over $500,000. That's what I said. This is a treasure financially, but also musically. This is the best place in Williamsport to have an organ. Speaking down the length of the nave from the right on the main axis, in the nave having reflective surfaces, and so it can speak well. It's not the largest instrument in town, but it's in the most favorable position, and that adds to its treasure. You need to know also that the room is actually part of the instrument. If this instrument were in some other place, it would not sound nearly so grand. It takes good advantage of its space. So thanks to the builders of 70 years ago who got it right, and to the rebuilders 50 years ago who got it even better.